moved it to the second window. I was only on the first one before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Oh my God,
Hello everybody, welcome to another one of our amazing ghostly nights. We've got a mixture for you this evening. We've got a ghost hunt and a ghost hunt / grizzly trail really. We're here at the place, the Hill of the Red Soil, Earsdon, Earsdon, apparently from days gone by. Now, the interesting thing about this place, not that it was as busy as it is now, but back in the old days, incredible stories. Stories as recently as the last few months here in Earsdon. The reason we're here is because of Karen. Karen, thank you very much for pointing us in this direction. The ghost of a woman and the ghost of a little boy seen within the last fortnight. We're hunting. But because today is so special, I thought we would start here. A monument erected to the glorious memory of the men who gave their lives in the Great War. Not just that, if you look on the side, you will see those from Earsdon who lost their lives in the Second World War too. And if you look up, this is one of the rarer monuments because this guy's not a soldier. Most monuments are to soldiers. This one, he's a Navy man.
Yeah.
My Uncle Bill was in the Navy, so we think of him and we think of all those at the going down of the sun, and in the morning we will remember them. And there's an amazing story about an Earsdon lad called John Coxon. John Coxon was a sergeant, he was an ex-pitman, and he came from this village and he went to fight in 1914 and 1915. And now, just to give you a flavour, now I know you're a fan of tales of daring do and all of that, boys' own adventures from comics like the Hotspur and the Victor and the Eagle and all those half a dozen of them. They're great. The Hornet even. Now, this John Coxon, an ex-pitman, muscles in his spit. They used to, you know, the big lads used to hew and coal from the coal face. As soon as the war became serious and people realised it wasn't going to be over by Christmas, like they told everybody, John Coxon decided he was going to join up, and he joined most of the village. The men from here joined the Northumberland Fusiliers. He joined the Fusiliers and he went to fight. And within 7 months, he was promoted from private to corporal to sergeant. And do you know how he became a sergeant? This was the very beginnings of the use of tanks. But the tanks back then didn't look like what they make at Vickers Armstrong's. Used to make at Vickers Armstrong's, where my mum made bombs back in the war. You know, with the 2 pairs of tracks and a big gun waving around. Back then, they had 2 tracks, but they were kind of an odd shape, an off rectangle shape. And the only guns they had were on 2 tin cans at the side. At the side. Now, if you saw one of those tanks coming, you just had to, you could see where the gun was going to turn, so you could actually avoid it. Problem was, there was like 4,000 people, so you were going to hit something lightly. But what this Coxon did, apparently, he got a few of his mates, a few of the troops that were working beside him, because he was just a corporal at the time, and the tank was static, waiting to go into the fray. And he got some of the lads to stick mud down the end of the barrel and then stones as much as they could. Now, the only way that the people in the tank could see was forward. And they had 2 tiny little slits at the side. But if somebody was just sticking stuff in the,
Yeah, they wouldn't have a
they
clue.
wouldn't have a clue that they were there. Well, apparently, when they started firing, one of the sides blew up, and the other one just didn't work at all. So the tank was just a tractor.
Right.
You know, it was only going to hurt somebody that it drove over the top of. Unfortunately, again, during the war, with all of the mud, they'd still get a few.
Yeah.
He lifted the top, dropped an old-fashioned, they were more of a bomb than a grenade back then, dropped a grenade in, finished the tank off, saved the lives of however many, he got his third stripe. Happy as Larry, amazing. So, then, there was an episode, and you've got to remember that this kind of stuff happened on a daily basis. We want you to go on a secret mission, but it's very dangerous, and we're looking, instead of like thousands going over the top, we're looking for 120 men to go and take this German trench. Now, the Germans apparently had set up what they call a killing field, which is an open area with machine guns on two sides, so that if one didn't get you, the other one would. It was called a killing field. They tried to get across it to the German trench that was behind these machine guns on a dozen occasions, and they'd lost a few hundred men just trying to get there. So this was like, this is heavy stuff. So they put out for volunteers, and John Coxon stepped forward and said, "I'll lead them, sir." Which you're like, I mean, at a time where there was the amount of people dying there. So Coxon set out with 10 men, 10, not the 120. He went across just to make sure he could do it.
Yeah.
Wheedled around on his belly, crawling through dead bodies, because the whole place was littered with his own friends, crawling through these bodies, through barbed wire, through puddles of mud. And it was said that 3 days before he did this, 2 wounded soldiers in a trench had been eaten alive by rats. Because you can't defend yourself, you know, if you're wounded. So, and the rats apparently were massive because they had a lot to feed on. So anyway, all of this going on, he manages to reach the German trench. He could see the Germans walking back and forth. And he's thinking, we can get here. So then you've got to get all the way back. So he gets all the way back and he says, I know how to do it now. We'll do it about 1 o'clock this morning. 120 of them followed in his footsteps, got all the way to the trench. The trench was about 10 yards ahead. John Coxon from Earsdon stands up with his rifle and just runs into the trench. There was 3 German soldiers in this forward trench, and they hadn't been able to get close to them because of the machine guns. He jumps in the trench, shoots 2 of the soldiers, takes the 3rd one prisoner, and then forces him to march on his belly all the way back, and then goes back again, leading the troops to get into the trench, take it over, go around the back and finish off the machine guns. That's how he got his medal. Now, about 3 months after that, he gets wounded. Now, I've heard a couple of versions of how he was wounded, but apparently a lieutenant got wounded in the arm, and he was down on the ground, and he couldn't get out the mud, he couldn't lift himself up. So he went up, lifted him up, got him out. On the way back, he got shot in the back, trying to get the lieutenant back to the lines. He successfully did that. He got sent home, set up life here, working on allotments, had a shop. Superhero. Yeah. How do you go back from that to normal life is amazing. So love and respect. If you've got family that served in the forces or currently serves, absolute love and respect to you. Thank you for defending us. Thank you for keeping us safe. And this is just absolute testament. We shall indeed remember them. And maybe just by some of the stuff we do, we'll remember them. I don't know whether, Tony, can you pick that up on camera? That top window. It just, yeah, but you see, if I shine a torch on it, they don't run away, look. But has it moved? I'm not sure. Anyway, there's a few places I want to show you, because you'll have driven past the roundabout where this is. If you're on your way to Whitley Bay, you'll have driven past the roundabout. Now,
The pub.
we would love to go to the pub and just have a nice dinner. However, we're here for you, so let's get up. Ice cream. I know, don't. Your hands will feel like ice cream by the time the night's finished. Now, if you have a look at this, this is the Red Lion, but the reason we're here is for two reasons. Did you know that there was a settlement here during the Iron Age? Here, this very spot, because when they were digging up the foundations of the Red Lion, they found Iron Age, that is 1,200 years BC, right? So we're talking 3,500 years ago. Here, cavemen and women were doing their thing, clubbing women on the head and dragging them to the cave, because it's what they deserve. Joking.
Never knew there were clubs in them days.
No, joking aside, the Iron Age settlement here and a medieval settlement here before a lot of this. I mean, we see it's massive now, Earsdon. It's part of the urban spread from Whitley Bay, really. But here, going back 400 years, this was a brothel. It was a bawdy house, and it was a bawdy house for Whitley Bay,
Right.
and also for Wallsend. And the reason was, this was just far enough away so that people on a horse or in a cart could get there and back with their wives not knowing anything about it.
Doing some business. Yeah.
So the Red Lion is actually quite famous, but there's a ghost here, and it's not in the pub, surprisingly. It's here, just here.
This area here.
Yeah, now, before the bar was built, before the modern version, should I say, of the bar was built, this whole area here, beside this old wall that runs along, this was trees and greenery. And you got to remember, the old tavern was over there, and it wasn't half as big as the current one is. And a man whose name was Arthur Jones would come here, and he'd have a few jars. He'd go upstairs, and he'd do a little bit of getting jiggy with it, with the ladies concerned. But the interesting thing is that as recently as the last few months, they've seen a figure here. Apparently one of the houses opposite's got CCTV cameras, and they've caught something on one of the cameras that was said to be a grey figure just walking across the courtyard, and it's right here.
I can see two figures across there, but they're real people, aren't they?
Are they?
Can you see them?
I'm just seeing the light of Tony's.
Can you see that there? There's people there moving.
Is there?
Yeah, there.
Can you see them, Tony?
You can see people on bikes.
Is that what it is?
I'm just seeing what you see when you stare into a bright light.
So people, see that's moved looking at that window.
He hasn't, man. He's still there. He's still.
Higher up.
No, he's not. He's still there. Or maybe he's dead.
Oh, don't.
No, I'm kidding. Joking aside. So let me just quickly tell you, and then we'll be on our way, the story of Arthur Jones. It's very quick. Apparently, when farmers would come here, they'd say to their wife, I'm just taking the cow to Mrs. Johnson so she can get some milk, or Harry needs the bull, and the bull's going to service a few of his cows. And what they'd do is, they'd come down here with their bull or with their cow or with their sheepdogs, whatever it is, and they'd tie
them up.
or on a horse. They'd tie, you got to remember, it was horses and carts. Yeah. And one day, this guy brought one of his prize bulls down here, and he tied it up outside the old coach house that was here before the Red Lion. Because the Red Lion's been, I think, 1880s or something. It's been here a while. This is before that. And this man, Arthur Jones, walking by, sees a bull and thinks, make some money out of that. So he unties the bull and starts trying to run down the road, pulling a bull. He didn't get very far, and somebody in the village said, that's Henry's bull that he's got. So they dropped Henry in it by going to Henry's farm, talking to his wife so there'd be hell on, and they ended up catching the man, brought him back here and hanged him from a tree. Now, I don't think it's any of these, because you got to remember there were trees here.
Yeah.
But in the courtyard that is now to the side of the Red Lion, that's here. This is where, and he wasn't hanged by the authorities. This was just a group of lads from Earsdon who said, not acceptable, strung him up, dead. And he's supposed to haunt this side area. I don't know whether he's ever even made it into the pub. I've not heard any stories that he has. But if you come here and you're ghost hunting, Arthur Jones, here, Arthur Jones. Anyway, let's head up, because the main place we're going will blow your mind. It's amazing. Kenny and I have taken a just a sneak look, but my goodness, it's quite something. And it's haunted. That's the main thing. Next week we're indoors, but for today, it's a mixture of strange places outside. I've driven past Earsdon 1,000 times. You know, I've never been in the village. Never been in the village. No. I've been in the Lion, but I've never been up here.
You've been the Beehive.
The Beehive. And the Beehive famous for?
The Likely Lads.
The Likely Lads filmed a lot of their TV shows there. And another TV show was filmed here. Supergran. So a lot of people are not remotely aware that any of that kind of stuff has happened. Now, we're heading across here, where a lot of the houses are rebuilds, and nice little poppy. And you don't have to go very far to get to our next destination, because literally all the way along here, there are things to see, things to talk about.
You would never think it in a little village.
Absolutely not.
You know, we should do those villages more and something. People don't know nothing about they live there.
Now hang on, this is our next destination. This is Church Way. Now there's a couple of signs over here. I don't know whether you can see them. There's one on the seat, and there's one there. Britain in bloom. Yeah. It was the best. On the park bench over yonder, there's a little plaque that says best kept street. But what they don't tell you, this is the Methodist church. Not particularly old, apart from being a Methodist church, not particularly special. But Church Way is, because back in the day, once again, and Kenny, do you think that people in Earsdon would have enough power to stop Viking attacks?
No.
Well, one of the people that ran a chapel here, and this is this.
There, by the way.
I did, but there's nobody in the church. Not that I think. It's. Did you hear that?
I heard something. I'm not sure what it was.
I heard enough, definitely.
Right. Now, here is where the old chapel used to be. The old chapel was in a hollow. Now, this church is also in a hollow, isn't it? This is the hollow down here. I know, I see them.
Yeah, like extra.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So be careful coming down here, Tony.
I'll grab the real stone.
So down here is the hollow where the old chapel was, and it wasn't remotely like this. But you know what I was telling you? Is it being used? Yes, it's still being used. I think so. The back in the day, Kenny, this whole area, all of Earsdon, used to belong to the Bishop of Tynemouth.
Right.
It was given to the Bishop of Tynemouth. Now, the Vikings kept attacking Tynemouth, and they did a lot of that. especially the Priory. So the Bishop of Tynemouth decided to talk to the church, and they said, we've had like 15 Viking attacks this month. It was that commonplace. What we're going to do? He persuaded, the man from Earsdon, persuaded the Bishop of Tynemouth to pay the Viking leader, who in all the books calls him Sweyn Forkbeard.
Right.
In Scandinavia, they call him Sven.
Yeah.
There's Sweyn is Sven Forkbeard. They paid him £36,000 back then, which is probably closer to $1 million, and paid him that money to stop him attacking for 2 years. Right. During that 2 years, the king had allowed, Ethelred was his name, Ethelred, who was the king at the time, and he just transformed to become a Christian. He brought in a law saying that you could clamp down on anyone who doesn't believe in Christianity. Now, the vast majority of everybody who lived here didn't believe in Christianity. They were pagans. They didn't believe in any religion, didn't have one. So they clamped down, and because the guy from Earsdon had persuaded the man to pay all that money to the Vikings to stop the attacks, they asked him to make the first statement. So outside the old chapel, if you can imagine the front of the chapel being here, because you remember it wasn't this building, ancient chapel, they brought 4 families, men, women and children, and hanged them here. Now, haven't found any ghost stories, but a juicy bit of history just here. Now, the place where there is a ghost, weirdly,
Can you get through this way?
oh, maybe. Let's have a look. Because it is actually down here, isn't it? On the other side. You can tell it's... Is it locked? No? Yes, you can. We might not be able to get out, can we? Now, well, on the other side of the church, this building wasn't there back in the day. There's like a house here. I don't want to put a torch on it because it's somebody's home and they're relaxifying. But this dip where the old chapel used to be, where they've built obviously the new Methodist church, relatively new, this is haunted. This bit here. Did you hear a voice there?
I can hear little noises all the time. There.
There's talking down here. Again, if you guys catch anything at home, screenshot it, let us know. I'll give us a time. I heard a voice there. About 2 buildings up from here, there used to be a pub called the Old Phoenix Inn. It only closed down in 1971. Now, back in the day, there was an area here where they were allowed to store casks of beer. There was a storage unit here, not in the 70s, in the 1800s. They stored the kegs of beer and ale and what have you. And it was owned by a woman, I think it was 1860 something. It was the landlord of the Old Phoenix was a man called Blackburn. And Blackburn was a bit of a brute, used to batter his missus about a bit. And then one day they found him lying dead in the bar. He'd had a few drinks and he just didn't wake up. Now, everybody all around Earsdon knew that Mrs. Blackburn had been asking for certain substances, poisons essentially. And everybody knew that he was a brute. So the reality is there's a very strong likelihood that she actually poisoned him to death. And it's said that the only place that his spirit was...
What was that? That was behind Tony.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I hear voices.
But we are in Earsdon, there might be people about. That was quite loud though.
That was behind Tony.
I thought it was from that side. Did you get which way did you think it was? This,
Maybe behind the building, the other side.
oh, maybe, okay. Let's go and have a look. Come on, we'll get out of here anyway. But his spirit's supposed to be down in this divot, this side. Can you shut the gate on the way out, Ken, as well, please? Right. So the side where the executions took place, executions of men, women and children, there's no sign of, there's no history of any kind of ghostly activity. And yet, on the other side of the building, a totally different story of poison. And apparently the reason why he keeps coming back there is because this is his sneaky place where he would come and smoke his pipe and sneak a few drinks without his missus knowing. Watch your step backwards, Tony, because this is maybe it'd be easier to see, to catch a glimpse of the dead Mr. Blackburn looking down at the other side, because, so we've got a story from Church Walk, because you can actually see it down here, Tony. There you go, that's just where we've been, just over here. So if you see anything, you never know. But I heard voices down there, and there's nobody on the opposite side. And the old church building with creepers going up it. No sign of Mr. Blackburn. Light it up, Kenny. See what you can find. But you can imagine if there was a pub and you wanted a bit more room, somewhere like this is a place you could secure stuff, isn't it? Right, let's rock on a bit further. And these are the kind of things that I think are fascinating, because in small villages, small settlements, there's, in the whole, oh, that's nice. Happy Halloween. Yes, it is. It's a cat.
Ooh.
Well
Oh,
done.
there's a real cat there as well.
Well, no.
No, that's a cat. That pumpkin's a cat.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Because it's got slit eyes.
Yeah.
And there's a real cat behind it. Right. I like that one that's eating another melon, which is our pumpkin. We're looking for a building on the right-hand side here as well. That used to be an old... They call it the Battery for some reason. I just can't imagine why they would call this particular building. It's before we get to the next pub along here that's got probably the best story of them all, the Cannon. The Battery's literally just at the end of this block. Do you think there's enough room in that skip for Kenny?
Plenty of room.
I think it's here. Just stop. Is this? Oh, is this it? No, I don't think it is. Now, as you can see, some of the buildings here have the old coach, you know, where you drive a coach through. Whether that's an original or whether it's a reproduction, I'm not sure. But just along here, I think it's just the end of this block. There's a massive wall, and it's a thing that used to be called in the 1870s the Battery. Now, a battery's like cannons and guns and so on. Yeah. That's it there. There it is. Here we go. Champy thing. Great. Now, I'm not even sure this is the original. I think this is a rebuild. But you see where this wall is? This is what used to be called the Battery in the 1800s. Now, during the First World War, they used this as a surgeon's office, and they would bring wounded soldiers, soldiers that weren't going to make it, and they would bring them here and operate on them without anaesthetic. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's... Is it haunted? No idea. That's just the story. It's a quick one. But it's this place. Let's get across. Because the thing that blew me away is this building here. Now, as you can see, it's a terrace. It's a terrace at the moment, but the Cannon Inn used to be a pub called the Spread Eagle back in the day. And I'm talking about a time many, many moons ago where, why would a pub called the Spread Eagle change its name to the Cannon Inn? And it's what happened right here. This used to be all grass. I know they've turned it into paths and stuff, and you cannot tell because it's autumn and all the leaves have fallen. During the Napoleonic War, you know, we're talking about proper history here. Yeah. During the Napoleonic War, a huge French sailing warship, tall masts and sails, was captured by the English on the River Blythe, right? Now, on the river, French army ship firing cannons into people's houses. Here, River Blythe. Now, the entire crew was captured because British soldiers got in small boats, climbed on board the French ship, captured everybody, killed a few of them, captured the crew, brought the crew to the tavern, the Cannon, and also to some of the other buildings, presumably these buildings that were at the side. Now, this was old-fashioned coaching in again. When they brought them here, the boatswain of the French crew decided that he was going to try and rally the men and try and get them to break out, because there's a whole crew. There was 117 Frenchmen in these buildings. Most of them in chains or tied up with ropes. The boatswain managed to get free, decided he was going to kill the man that was guarding them, and then start setting them free, and then try and get back, steal a ship and get back to France. Sounds the kind of stuff you'd see in a film. Yeah. Didn't work out that way. The boatswain, if you can imagine you're the guard, the boatswain gets free, he comes up, chews the ear off the man, tries to bite his throat out, and the man batters him down, and while he's on the ground, takes out his flintlock pistol and shoots him in the face. So the escape didn't work. 3 days later, 6 horses dragged the biggest cannon you've ever seen from the French ship, brought it here and stood it in front of the tavern called the Spread Eagle. And from that day, the Spread Eagle became known as the Cannon. That's the true story of the Cannon Inn. And I think it's amazing. Now, when we come out to do these like ghost hunts, they're hunts for a reason, because we're looking. And if we get a story like we did from Karen, that there is ghosts to be seen here, where are they? Well, it's just along here. Now, I know...
It's a great reason why this should be called
Earsdon. But you know, that might be one of...
Who knows?
What I've found is that quite often a story starts and then something else happens that kind of underlines and says, yeah, we made the right decision. Now, I know the church has got something on today. So we're going to start at the opposite end to allow everybody who's having a thoroughly nice time in the church to enjoy what they're doing. And we're going to sneak up from behind like you do. I think it's incredible. As you can see, it's St Albans Church here. And there's been a church on this ground since approximately 1210. 1210. Now, this is Eccles Hall. See this? this building here apparently is Eccles Hall. It used to be before, because you can see it's not just like a normal building.
No.
It's a glorious thing. And once again, another bloody story, an amazing story from this part of the world. Now, I think so. Mind you, there's no lights on, but they've got alarms. The weird thing is, there didn't used to be a road in front of it, it was just a track. And Eccles Hall was said to be haunted. And the reason it was said to be haunted was because of what happened here. I mean, an amazing story that, just look at it, Tony, it's just a beautiful...
Probably still a hole, it looks like.
It looks like a hole.
Well, it's called Eccles Hall, so it wouldn't surprise me. Now, they say that people see faces at the window of prisoners staring out at them.
Probably the village hall now.
It will be the village hall, that. Got to be. Got to be. I can get the front door.
Now, to be honest, just look at the windows, because faces apparently staring out of the window, I've heard. But vicar and friend of the community, well bless him. Now, the story behind this place, and weirdly, they said that Eccles Hall faces at the window. People were saying, well, what's this about? This was up until about the late 1950s. But if you go back far enough, 70% of all of the men who lived in Earsdon, 70% were killed at the Battle of Flodden Field. Now, you probably heard Flodden Field, massive battle with the Scots. Now, but what you might not know is the French were invading Britain at the time, and the Scots piled in on the side of the French, because the French and the Scots have always got on. They've always fought together in battles. So when the French invaded, the Scots piled down and they had the big battle at Flodden Field. 70% of the men from Earsdon died in the Battle of Flodden Field. But the exciting thing is that the King of Scotland was killed in the Battle of Flodden Field, and his blood-soaked tunic was carried to Henry VIII. There's proof that we've killed the king, because there's the king. It's all slashed, hundreds of axe and sword strokes. But in a Scottish ballad, they say, the king rode out against the foe, defending all the clans. He lost his life to an arrow shaft fired by an Earsdon man. So, tiny village, but maybe one of the 70% who died, or maybe one of the few that survived, lived here in Earsdon. I think I'm sorry, but that's dynamite.
Yeah.
Dynamite. Now, whenever there's a good thing, what always happens?
There's a bad thing.
There's a bad thing. Now, you see, you can argue whether killing the Scottish king was a good thing,
yeah,
or a bad thing, depending where you stand,
yeah,
historically. About 7 months after the Battle of Flodden Field, a lot of the people in Earsdon were butchered. They were gathered together by Scots who came down looking for the people who killed their king, because the ballad said, lost his life to the shot in the neck, off his horse, and then when he was on the ground, everybody piled in because they all wanted to stab the king. So they came back down here, and it was said that the battle took place where the opposite side of the road from where Eccles Hall is, Sully. Yeah. It doesn't look much, not much to see really, it's just a bit of field. But if it's right what they say, check it out. But always, you see, when I hear stories for over like 120, 130 years that you see ghosts in the windows, I'm still drawn to actually look back at where the windows are. If anybody can see anything. And my question would be, if the hole wasn't here when the Scots were killed,
Yeah.
why would they be peering out of the windows of the hole?
Yeah.
Or is that a separate story?
Again. Yeah.
Does that curtain just move?
Oh, don't.
No, that, look at the bottom of the, it's moving, isn't it?
That one is.
Yeah, I'm saying.
And they can't really, because none of the windows are open.
And the double glazed, you can see that.
Yeah.
So what's moving the curtain?
I have no idea. Can't really go. Oh,
Did you see that as well?
behind there. The
Yes.
second, first gap.
First
there.
gap at the end, there.
Yeah.
There's somebody in there, isn't there?
There's like a, yeah. There must be somebody living
But
there.
if there's somebody in there, that with us pointing,
Just went past there, like a white.
I saw it too.
Yeah.
I was actually starting to look there and something drove me. There! Kenny, it's easier to see this way.
Right.
And it actually even looks like there's somebody there. Look.
Oh, God, what is that?
I don't know.
Something moved past that window there, past that gap.
The first gap in, not the first gap in, second gap in now that we can see. Yeah, I see it.
In fact, there, it's widened. That gap's widened.
Oh, it has. No, it is. You're right.
You can see more in there now.
Uh-huh. I wonder if there's somebody in there, they'll be wetting themselves wondering who these people are.
We're putting lights on them going, oh.
That's just weird. Well, that is peculiar, mind. Because I saw the curtain move first.
Also, like a movement behind it, like a white thing. Behind that. My camera will pick that up.
I hope so. That is weird. What a start to the show, good grief. Right, come on, let's get down to the really scary bit. The place where the ghosts were seen this last fortnight. It's down this lane. This lane leads to two of the biggest cemeteries you've ever seen in your life, and yet the spookiest one is up here. There's a few stories and a massive mining disaster tale. Kenny's hypnotised by what's down there. 3/4 of a mile to East Hollywood down here. But this is, oh, hang on, I'm going to have a look down here as well. Kenny, you might be able to see in here. Because I'm staring so much at... No, there will be. Somebody was moving the curtains, I think. What do you think that is?
Hell?
That's just random, isn't it? Oh, and there's the hole. It's the back of the hole. What?
Oh, what was that?
What's what? Oh, look!
Where's that coming from?
There.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
We saw like mist, a ghostly
Yeah.
figure.
Dear
Can you
me.
make that out?
Look at that. I just saw that and I thought, what the hell?
Yeah.
I got a right shock there.
It's always good though, hey, finding out what things are. We're always looking for proof.
I just saw it round me and I'm like, what the hell?
Amazing, isn't it? Kenny, you're on camera as well, so just be aware. Don't want to trespass. Yeah, that was, I absolutely understand.
We tortured it. I was like, what is it all around us?
Absolutely. Come on, Kenny, I need you in front, mate, for the night vision. This is Amazing, this place we're taking you to. Out you go, mate.
Weird. Going down here?
Oh, don't worry, it'll become absolutely obvious.
We've got the ball and all that, haven't we?
Yeah.
Tony, your hand's cold.
He's
Got gloves on.
We're going to have to... My fingers are blue.
Oh, it's cold. 3 degrees, isn't it?
When will I see you again?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, apparently Karen was walking her dog down here. And, you know, the church with the tangled and the gruesome and the... What I think is downright scary is the upper graveyard, but there's like 3 or 4 graveyards in a row down here. And I think this is probably the more modern one of the 2.
Right.
That's farm property, so we just go straight through.
Oh, God, the gate's open and there's obviously animals in there.
Yeah,
Well, why?
because it's a farm, Kenny. Well, the main gate's not, though. So in we come with Commonwealth War graves. Now, we'll be going up to that part because we know it's haunted up there. It's a very, very famous ghost of a young lad who lost his life in the big pit disaster at Hartley Pit. I'll give you his name and I'll tell you where they see him. I'll show you the place. But this is where we're going.
What's that there?
What's what?
Something's just flashed me there. Seriously.
What?
Something just lit up across there.
Lit up. Well, let's get in, Ken.
Probably time to split the stream. Probably
Oh,
a good
blimey,
place.
we're just starting. A gruesome and bloody death of 204 people. And some of them are in here. I mean, still moving about. And there's an incredible story who's, we're looking at, in a graveyard this size, we're looking for a girl called Jane Bridges as well.
Right.
We've got to find her. Because apparently, if you lay your hands on the tomb of Jane Bridges and you ask her to show herself, something happens. So we're going to do that. Anyway, we'd love you to come with us. A massive cemetery.
Sorry.
What have you got?
There's something lit up just across there and moved.
Lit up.
Lit up and moved. I definitely 100%.
Oh, there.
Do you see that?
There it is again.
You see? I knew.
Tony, you've got to see this.
I knew it wasn't me. I knew there was something there.
You'll see it, Tony.
And then, and this is a weird thing, a leaf has just fell down there, right?
There's
And
no
yet
trees.
No trees. I've just seen a leaf.
No,
literally-
but that thing was really bright.
I've just seen a brown leaf literally just fall down there.
Well, yeah, like that doesn't happen.
No, just there though.
But that light thing was clear. It was in the trees.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, we'd love you to come with us. This is the juicy bit that we've come for. Tony, how do they do it? How do they join if they're not already supporters? And if you're a supporter, don't whinge about anything. We're doing our best. How do they do it, Tony? Tell them.
There's a link in the video description on Facebook and YouTube. Just hit that and there's loads of links. Decide what you're going to join on and then you can become a member and watch part 2.
Just come with us. Less than £1 a week, for heaven's sake, and we're freezing our testaculars off. So come and join us. We want to find out, I don't know whether you saw it. Kenny said that he saw like a white light moving through the trees. So did I, 100%.
Definitely.
100%. I don't know whether we just switch your torch off briefly and see if it happens. Because, no, I know, oh yeah, look at that. Oh, bells, that's not good. It's over there, isn't it?
Yeah.
In those, well, let's get in. Let's get in, man. Now, don't forget, we're looking for Billy, what's his name? Pap. It'll come back to me. He's 14-year-old and he haunts this cemetery. And he died horrifically. And the story will make you feel sick. Anyway, let's get in.